Good morning, and welcome to you and Jeppe from Foxy, the Danish performance group. Did you get my English-Danish accent?
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Foxy consists of two Biering and Jeppe Kristensen, plus whoever they want to involve in their projects. Jeppe has studied dramaturgy in Aarhus.
Yes.
And Tue has studied directing in the theater school in København, which is, I would say, quite similar to our school.
Yeah.
The main reason why we wanted to invite Tue and Jeppe to this festival is because they tend to create performances where the audience have a specific position or put in an ethical problem or something, or there is a specific way the audience has to kind of be dealt with in the performances. I can give you some example to kind of give you an idea. For instance, their project Come On, Bangladesh, Just Do It, was played in Royal Theatre of Denmark in 2006 and had as a topic outsourcing. So they picked the most traditional of the popular national romantic plays called Elvehøjen, which is very much played in Denmark, in this kind of popular classical Danish thing. And then they would outsource these plays for actors from Bangladesh. So they would flew in actors from Bangladesh, put them into these classical costumes, make them a little white, I think, yes. And then learn them some Danish, or learn them some lines from the play in Danish, but not Danish at all, but just these lines.
Just the sounds.
Yes. Yeah. And then in the play, that would also kind of serve the audience dinner and drinks from the money that they would save by doing this with cheap actors. So that's one example. Another example is Pretty Woman from 2008. This is a kind of a remake of the film Pretty Woman, where they would kind of rehearse Pretty Woman, the film which everybody knows, right, with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, about this businessman falling in love with a prostitute. So they would rehearse this film, or some scenes from the film, and then they would leave the part of the prostitute out. And then when the play starts, they would go out and find a street prostitute to play this part. Okay? And then you would shoot it, right? You would shoot the performance with cameras also.
Yeah, it was like two performances. You saw the movie we were making live and the set where we did it live. So it was theater and movie in one combo.
Yeah. And also, what I think is the last performance is kind of the same. You shoot a film. That's I'm thinking about The Triumph of the Will. That's the last performance from last year.
Let's say latest, because maybe we'll make another one.
Yeah.
Maybe. Just
the latest performance is The Triumph of the Will, which is also a remake of a film, and the film that it is a remake of is Leni Riefenstahl's documentary from 1934, Triumph des Willen, which you probably know as the big Nazi propaganda movie made from the Nazi party's days in Nuremberg in 1934. You all are familiar with some of the scenes where you see a lot of Nazis is like marching and Hitler is having speeches, and it's very well done with cameras moving and etc. etc. So here the main actor had the role as facilitator, but also played the part of Hitler sometimes, giving speech and so on. And then audience would get in the role as the masses, had to march and so on. So as we can see, you kind of tend to put audience in interesting, awkward, and probably also ethical questionable positions, which is some of the topics we're going to talk about here. But first of all, I want to ask you, when you create the performance, what is your starting point? What's the beginning of it? Where do you begin from?
It would be curiosity, I say, or we have like an idea of something in society we want to react to. Like in Pretty Woman, it was prostitution. In Common Bangladesh, it was outsourcing. It would be some kind of theme or topic we want to, and we are very curious about it, and we actually don't know anything about it at all in the beginning. So it's also the starting point of a journey, trying to find out more about it, I would say.
Yes. No, it's of course we are always when we finish a performance, there's always something saying, "Oh, we could have done that better," and this was really interesting for like the theater part of it. And in that way, we have like a box of things that we would like to try out. But it's always the theme or the topic that's the starting point. And we try to find a form where we can make ourselves and other people understand this theme or relate to it in some way. I think we both have an affinity for classical political theater, where you say what you mean. And I think we both like that, but we are not convinced that it works. So we try to find another way to make these themes, make people engage in the themes.
So your starting point somehow is a social and political one, somehow. You are trying to find out or question a social or political issue. But then you end up with putting the audience in a position to also be in a questionable position somehow.
I think you jump a lot of conclusions saying from the theme into the audience in an awkward position, because it's actually we're just trying to step by step to find a way where we can understand the theme and where other people have a chance to follow us, because we spend a lot of time working with it, and then try to make this journey into an experience for an audience. I think in some of our performances, yes, there's some kind of question to the audience, an ethical question, but it's not a point in itself to make a questionable situation for the audience.
It doesn't start there.
No, it's not. We have made performances where you just sit and watch. It's always a different kind of interaction with the audience. Like in Pretty Woman, it's quite a traditional performance. You just sit there and you just watch the performance, 1 hour of the movie. But there's made a contract in the beginning where you say, yes, welcome, and we're really glad you're here because you have paid us some money, and with that money we have bought a prostitute. So there's some kind of, we make the audience part of this transaction.
So as an audience, I am buying a prostitute somehow.
Yeah.
And
that's why you came,
yes.
because you wanted to see her perform.
Yes. So it makes me somehow, as an audience, someone that buys a prostitute. And do you pay the same amount as you would do for having sex with a prostitute also?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mm.
So it was a very clear deal with the prostitutes. We bought them for 1 hour with a traditional fee.
All these performances, as you probably understand, it's easy to kind of explain the performances, I think, and then you get very fast an idea what it is all about, I think. So it means it's very conceptual, it seems like. It can be explained in 2 sentences, and then I feel, oh, okay, I know it, or I could start working with it, or make a realization of that. So these strong concepts, where do they come from? Do they come in the beginning or the end, or how do you make this concept? Do they come from this? Okay, I want to research prostitution. Okay, let's find a concept for that.
I think it's a process all the way along. Also in rehearsals, and like 3 weeks before opening night, we will have to make a press release, some kind of press release, and then the job of trying to explain the concept really precise and simple. That's the way you make a press release. So you will get in the news, so people will be aware of the performance and buy some tickets. And in that work, actually, a great deal of the conceptual work is because we like to see our performances as many performances in one performance, like the one performance created in the audience's mind before the opening night, like saying the story about the performance, like in Pretty Woman. The whole country in Denmark, and I think some in Scandinavia, were discussing the performance before the opening night. Nobody have seen anything, and we didn't give any kind of interviews about it. But and we didn't make a press release. But somebody heard about the production, and then suddenly everything exploded. And then there were created a performance about the performance somehow, and a story about that, and the debate about the performance were a performance in itself. Then we had the performance, and then after the performance, like when the audience leave the performance, we'll have the third performance, some kind of performance, like a zip file, it's like a compressed file. People leave the room, we are not making any kind of moral answer to them, so they will leave the performance saying, I don't know what happened. Something hit me. And then it will begin to zip up, or open, during the next weeks or months. And then there is a new performance starting. So, yeah.
We're a very small theater group, and we work from Art Council money. We don't have resources to play for a lot of people. So when we make Pretty Woman, maybe 600 people saw that performance. It's a very small amount of people for a huge amount of work. So we really like making performance that exists outside the theater room, that are still here somehow when you talk about them. And when the press write about the performance, people who will not come to see the performance will get it somehow, will be part of the process.
So this means you all actually think there is a bigger audience than the audience that is there and see the play?
Yes.
Hopefully.
And the play starts, the contract starts long time before the audience even maybe have bought the tickets. I'm thinking about you are also you are collaborating with a lot of people. So I just want to guide us through the process here. And you have a concept, and you want to question something, and then you get people to work with you. So how do you do that? How does this phase function when you have actors and so on want to kind of start to create that thing?
It's very hard to make a good concept, I think, especially a theater concept. And we start years before the performance writing applications telling, to the Arts Council, we want to do this and we want to do that. And you have to make it into a clear idea. But the most interesting part of making conceptual theater is that you have to do it. It has to be realized somehow into a theater performance. So the concept is not finished when you start, because it meets the reality. This is not possible, then we have to do something else. And that's a really nice way of making it sharper. And you have to start thinking, what will the audience get? Can they understand this? And is it entertaining? And will it make them reflect? And so we work on the concept all the way. And it's really nice when we start a process that other people come into this thinking machine, because we have been talking for months and months and months about this project, and sometimes we just run around in circles. So when other people enter the process, something very important starts. and we like to work with people who are good at what they do, like a very good scenographer, a very good actor. But it's also important for us that they are very good at thinking and feeling how can this concept be turned into theater. You want to add something?
Yeah, so if we have been talking very much about what is a good actor and what is acting. For us, it's like we're not talking about the performing actor, we are talking about the creative actor, as an artist. For us, it's like, it doesn't matter if you're going to be on stage or off stage. If you're an actor, you're a part of the process from the beginning, and having personal creativity and certain skills that we don't have. So in the beginning, we're really starting up, like having this concept and have no clue about what to do about it. And it was very interesting. Our group working with a doll's house, going to do it on Thursday. One person said to us yesterday, "It's like you have a hidden agenda somehow. There's something you don't tell us." And it's absolutely not true, because it's just because we don't know. And we're very curious about our team, what we're working at right now. It's like, okay, last night we said to ourselves, okay, we are in the wrong direction, we have to change. So, group, we have to change today, I think, if you're up to it. That's the way our process goes. Like, we're starting at one point, and then when we have to do this press release like 3 weeks before the opening night, we really have to finish the process with the concept. Yeah.
But your actors, when you actually have to perform in the end, and when you have done the creative process with the actors and the rest of the team, the actors very often seem to have a role as a facilitator as well, not only like classical actors. What are the skills needed to be a good facilitator in this kind of performances?
I think a huge part of it is the same skills that you need to play classical theater. A huge degree of presence, and to be able to communicate with people, to know the structure of the play, to know where you're going and where you want to go. But also some part of improvisation, of course, to be able to react what happens if something can't go wrong, but it can go not normal, then you have to deal with that in some way. In some way, it's kind of classical theater, but in a very compressed way, because it's like this, you have to act for people just 1 meter. Yeah, I don't know if it's not a different kind of acting. It's just maybe it's a different kind of thinking. You cannot learn lines that are precise, but you can learn the lines, and you have to know the meaning of the lines. Why do I say this at this point? It's because there's a road this performance will take the audience. So if I interact with the audience in some way, I cannot use a line that is solid, but I can use some kind of fluid line that will take me from the welcome to the okay, we're going to do this. Did anybody understand? I didn't.
Yeah, but both of you also have pedagogical experience, right? And you're also from a very classical theater education. Is it possible, you think, to kind of train this kind of awareness, this listening? Do we do this with the classical training, or is it something else we can do? I mean, we are a pedagogical institution here, so we are occupied by these questions.
I think they are great on our team, really, all the actors.
Nothing more needed.
I can't see any problem with that. I think it's like being. I think it's interesting to go into a project that is, for us, every time it's a different project, and we have to like invent a new kind of process when we're doing a project, and we're saying, wow, now we are actually repeating ourselves from other projects, then we know we're going the wrong way somehow. We're doing what we're doing because we are curious and want to, like, we have this idea that someday we will find a new way of making theater or tell a story or find a new story. So every time we have to really forget all we know and become stupid again. And now I forgot the question. But anyway.
No, so the important here for you is to be flexible within a process somehow.
Yeah, and the same way for the actors. I mean, if you as an actor have like certain ideas about acting and how to do it, I think yeah, you're really narrowing it down and not giving yourself the opportunities to do all the other stuff we can do with theater. I mean, theater for me is the greatest media at all ever, and will be ever, because we have like, I haven't found any limits in this work ever, and we can just continue. And that's why I think it's interesting to talk and be here and talk with people that have different kind of methods, because for us it's like having no method is the method, because that's the way we can maybe find new ways out of it. And that's just one way of doing it. I mean, people with methods are, of course, able to find new ways, but that's just our way of doing it. Did that make sense at all? We're trying to communicate, we're really bad. We need actors up here trying to explain.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about the audience position in your performances. I think when we hear about your performances, some might get even provoked there, obviously, since you also have a lot of press around some of your performances. So there is some kind of provoking thing, imagining that I would be in the role of the masses. Why in Lene Riefenstahl's film, why would I be that? Why would I want that? Or why would I want to be an audience that buy a prostitute, you know? Even if it only is for a theater, it's kind of the same deal, you could say. So
it's not the same deal.
It's not the same deal.
You're going to act, or you're going to be a part of the gangbang under a bridge?
No,
not same.
It's not. It's okay. But I can argue. If I want to argue here, I could say, yeah, but you buy her intimacy somehow. We all see her.
As the actor, are you feeling intimidated when you act? In film?
Yeah, I can feel. I mean, I know that this is a street prostitute. I would see her on stage. I would see her in the role of a pretty woman. Yeah, she's in a role. But we all know that there's a human being here as well, which I know is going to be sent out on the street, and then she's going to go to another situation. So I think me as an audience would feel exposed to something that I would be maybe, I don't say I forcingly would be, but maybe would feel uncomfortable with.
Yeah, but that's something very different.
Well, I'm not going to insist that you are buying prostitutes. That's not my point. But my point is I am put into a position where I would feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
Where I would feel exposed to something that I would rather not want to be exposed to. That's a possibility, right? So just so how do you deal with these things, putting the audience in that kind of positions?
Well, again, it's very different from project to project. In Pretty Woman, that was some kind of a scandal performance. Actually, it was played in a I don't know what you call it, a container, a workman's container at the central prostitution square, and it was very visible. It had all this press, and and the way we acted in the press was kind of aggressive. Say, yeah, we're just gonna buy her and it will be fun. But inside the performance, it was a very quiet and very friendly and very considerate performance. So it had a lot of expectations from the outside, and then when you get inside the performance, it was something completely different. And that was the point of that contract. In Viljens Triumph, it was the other way around. In that performance, it was a secret that you were going to perform. We play so short that you can actually do that. Nobody will know because the talk about the performance only starts when the performance is done.
Okay.
So you entered the room, and it was put up more or less like this, not with chairs, but with benches that were flexible, and you sat down and you thought you were going to see performance, maybe a movie, because there was a big screen. And then the actor entered and started playing the movie. We made it with little doll houses and a little plane coming, and we filmed it, and we played the music, and it was very beautiful. And then there's a problem, because that was the first scene without people. Then the next scene, Hitler enters, and yes, there's a picture of Hitler, but then there's also a picture of a lot of people waving. And then the actor just have to stop because he can't do that. You have to, can you help me? Because it's just one shot. I need a group of people here. You don't have to act, just stand here and wave. And then it was a progress where you slowly you waved, and then you lived in a tent, and more it turned into this, like the Nazi movie, which is a very warm and fun and happy movie in the beginning, and only in the end people start talking about war and Jews. So that was a trick. We tricked the audience into participating.
And were there a lot of audience that said, no, I don't want to be the masses. I don't want to march.
There were only like 4, I think, during all the performance. 4 people didn't want to participate, and there was like 4 directing students from the theater school. They felt, well, we are educated people, we're not going into that. We know what they are doing. But everybody else, because it was like, well, you're watching the movie, and then suddenly you see yourself on the camera, and you want to be good. You actually want to be good now you're on camera. You don't want to be like doing this, ruin the movie. So you're actually doing like this. And if you're told to say, I'm from Bremen, then you say, I'm from Bremen. And if the actor says, like, try to reach me, try to touch my hair, he's walking by here, then you're trying to touch his hair. And then you're doing this, and then we're framing. It was actually also about a movie very much about aesthetics, about the aesthetics of frames and pictures, saying, actually Lena Riefenstahl was doing an art piece, and whether or not she was also doing propaganda, and whether or not we actually can see the beauty of the movie, and actually become a part of it, because it is joyful, and it is somehow giving me some kind of feelings and social relations I can relate to today and to my life, somehow. Who doesn't like to be in a tent with some other friends, having fun and drinking beers and playing guitar? They are doing that in Triumph of the Will, singing songs.
Do you also work with or problematize manipulation somehow in your work, you think? Is this important for you? Is this
I don't think manipulation is important for us, no.
No?
But it's sometimes a part of it. If Triumph of the Will is very much about manipulation. So, of course, we had to relate to that somehow. And then I think we have some kind of name for a method we sometimes forget, called Just Do It Theater, like trying to just do the thing. If we have this topic, if we are talking about outsourcing, then let's use our art form and outsource it. If we're talking about prostitution, we could make a play with having an actor playing their role as Vivian Ward, but there would be at no time me like being really confronted with some kind of like wanting to leave or something like that, because all the time I know it's an actor, I know it's a stage, I know it's theater room. So that's why we, like, to put it to debate, we did this thing about buying a prostitute, and it was a horrible time for us until the moment where we actually met the women and talked with them and had this meeting for ourselves. Then it made really much sense to create this performance and create this meeting between the women, the prostitute women, and the audience, because this meeting was very unique, because everybody has this kind of idea of the prostitute, maybe through the movie Pretty Woman, but haven't really met a prostitute. And every time we pass them, we're doing like this. We can't really look at them. So we are actually also facilitating the meetings with the people we don't actually meet in society, though they are just living and walking 1 meter from us. So, yeah.
I think Denmark has, I don't know if it's the same in Norway, maybe. Denmark has this illusion of being an egalitarian society, a social democratic society. And it's very comfortable for people like Tue and I, who are the artistic middle class, can go our way through life in some kind of social democratic dream. But when you start moving around the society, it's not really true. There are a lot of people that are falling out of this quite narrow path. And I think it's a very, in that sense, theater can be a very strong thing to use, because we are actually together in the same room. And it's, yes, it's somehow confrontating, provocative. It makes you uncomfortable to be in a room with a prostitute in a performance. But you are already in a room with her. You are in the same society. You just don't want to realize it. So that's some of our job. What we want to do is bring people together and have fun together. That's having fun together in a theater room is a political statement in that sense.
I don't think I would be uncomfortable being in a room with a prostitute, but seeing her in a position where she could feel a lack of control and see her exposed to that. That was more my point, I think.
Yeah.
If you understand.
Actually, she really wanted it. Of course, she wanted the money. She wanted to do something else than being a part of a gangbang on the bridge for 1 hour. And she really wanted to be exposed as something else. Being a part of a project, being a part of a theater project, being a part of this kind of is another story about her. Of course, the story about her is that she is living as a prostitute, but now she would be looked at in this kind of framing that it was like Vivian Ward, playing Vivian Ward. And that was kind of a drug for them. They were really eager to play every night, and we had actually a problem by refusing because they had really a special time, just this 1 hour.
Maybe this is a very good example of how we work with concepts. Because when we wrote the application for this performance, it was a really, really ugly performance. And it was about exposing how terrible these women live and how horrible their life is. And we just wanted to show that to the world. But when you start working in real life with these women, you have to meet them, you have to tell them, yes, we want you to do this. It's very obvious that you can say, and it's going to be horrible, it's going to be really bad for you to be in this performance. No, if you want to do it, you have to say, and yes, and we will take care of you. We will bring our profession to make you look good and to have fun and to make it a good experience. that was the only way that we could make it happen, but it was also the best way we could make it happen, because that was the real statement of this performance, was that if this woman can have fun for an hour and be together with us, then maybe she deserves to have more fun in her life than she already had. And it was just more powerful than saying, look at her, it's horrible, and prostitution is bad. Everybody would just say, yes, I know. But seeing somebody enjoy playing theater, dreaming about being Vivian Ward, that was very powerful.
I'm sure there is some in the audience that have some questions as well. Yeah?
Hi. Yeah, it's not really a question, I think. I was just thinking about the Pretty Woman performance, and it's really the fact that people are more upset that you buy her for an hour of theater than that everybody can buy her to have sex with her. It's kind of fantastic, and I think it's a great feministic work and a huge step to have something like that in the public space. And I would love for you to do this in Norway, where prostitution is now illegal, and that means that they are in the dark and they have no supervision of any sort. Because the most dangerous place to put ethical, questionable things is in the dark. And yes, I would love for you to come and do this performance and search the basements to find the prostitutes. Yeah, thanks.
Would you be open for doing it in Norway?
We actually tried to do it in Norway. We were invited to Bergen to do it there, but financial matters made it impossible. So, yeah.
No, actually, the problem was that Bergen, the Festspiel in Bergen, wanted to make a contract with us, saying like, you're doing like 20 shows in a row, and we said, yeah, we would really love to do that, and that would be our ambition, but we don't know if we have a show every night. Like when we did it in Copenhagen, we actually didn't know if there were a prostitute going to play the certain night. So we actually first knew it at 8 o'clock. So we weren't able actually to make a contract with them saying, we're doing this 20 days in a row. And then the Festspiel was saying like, why, if you can't find a prostitute, you can do it yourself, or you can have an actor doing it. Something like then it was just like, okay, let's go back and start from the beginning. Yeah. But we would love to do it, yeah. And it was really interesting. We spent a lot of time in Bergen and talked with people in the prostitution areas and in the milieu of that.
I have a lot to say, and I'd like to meet you afterwards. Just one thing in the beginning. Do you know about my work with Annie Sprinkle? Do you know who Annie Sprinkle is?
No, I'm sorry.
So I'll talk to you about that later. I'm more interested right now in asking what happened to the Bangladeshis. So it's much more costly, it seems to me, to bring a group of people from Dhaka or wherever they're from, and it's easy enough in one way, I'm not using that casually, for a prostitute to come from under the bridge and go back to the bridge, but because it's an unfamiliar place in a familiar culture. If you're really bringing people who are outsourced, they have no idea of what the culture in Denmark is. That if they did, they wouldn't be really outsourcing workers like that. So if you brought them, how did you care for them while they were here? How many? Who paid for that? And what happened to them when they went back? Or if they went, I assume they went back.
Oh, they went back. But
So how many were there? How does that paid for, et cetera, et cetera?
There were 5 actors, right? Yeah, 5 actors. It was paid for by the Royal Danish Theatre. So it was a traditional performance with a traditional budget of the Royal Danish Theatre. It was not very cheap to get actors from Bangladesh. That was a lie.
Because of travel.
Because travel expenses and they were not. They were actors. They were not.
They were not factory workers.
They were not factory workers. So that made a huge difference.
Were they
upper
actors
middle
who had
class.
ever been to the West before? Because to be true outsourced, they couldn't have been actors who have been making international tours, or were they actors who had already had experience in the West?
No, they were local actors, but they were like the cultural intelligentsia elite. Some of them were TV actors, others doing educational theater in Bangladesh. And I just think they had a great time in Denmark. The day we arrived, we wanted to show them around Copenhagen, and within 10 minutes, they already met 500 people. Oh, hi.
But the concept, to return to your concept, the concept of outsourcing, as I understand outsourcing, is this shirt is made very cheaply in Thailand or Bangladesh or someplace or China. It's made very cheaply. So if you get elite high-level actors from another society, you're outsourcing in a technical sense. You're bringing them from someplace else, but we circulate all the time. But you're not outsourcing in the sense of taking the poor people, in other words, to get people who want to be actors in Bangladesh but could never get a job as actors or are unemployed, bringing them and for a week making them stars in the Danish, and then I'm just wondering about the concept at that level.
You're perfectly right. This performance was the first performance we did. For us, it was a huge leap having this idea of, oh, we can do it, we can just outsource. But from that point on there was a lot of things we did that was not to the point. So in that point, you're right. And I think if this should be, if we should elaborate this concept. We should just made a factory in Bangladesh that makes theater for all over Europe. We can do Biering and Goethe and just produce it there.
Well, there are street theaters in Calcutta, which I can introduce you to, or Kolkata, that were started by a man named Badal Shakar, who resigned as city manager of Calcutta to work in the streets. And they do have street performers that he uses, he's dead now, but he used in his plays. So I think what you're doing is fabulous. I'm very, very interested in it. So I'm not meaning this as in any kind of unfriendly criticism. But if you were wanting to do that, there are ways of finding actually really poor people. I'm sure Gisela can introduce you to some too, who could speak Danish as poorly as your professional actors who couldn't speak it.
Yeah.
But I think I just have to say that the concept was like we're going to get a performance for 1/10 of the wages in Denmark. So they were only getting 1/10 of the salary of a Danish actor. We were buying the set design for 1/10 of what the set design would cost in Denmark. So that was the point. We are not going out saying we really want bad actors. Of course we want the best actors in Bangladesh. We just don't want to pay the same that in Denmark. That's the same thing about outsourcing the garment industry. It's not like saying we are getting bad garment workers.
The Danish Actors Union allowed you to pay 1/10?
Yeah, they allowed us. They're actually doing that specially for us. Because they said, well, we consider it not as a threat this will happen forever. But actually it was an interesting thought, and this kind of concept we would like to do in Germany with Schiller, or here in Norway with Biering, or a Doll's House or something like that. That could be really interesting to make this factory. Trying to say, is it possible to outsource your culture somehow?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
We have some more questions. We have to move forward. Gisela?
Yes, I think also it's very interesting. I mean, I've been listening to you and just thinking. I mean, you make me think a lot about your work and the work I do. One comment on what you said. I will be a little bit like, I will have a problem buying someone or buying for someone the hour where she or he can be happy. That's something that I don't know. I mean, who am I to do that? I mean, for what purpose? And then again, the question that Richard posed of what happened afterwards with that person that was happy for an hour. I think it's very risky. I wouldn't be very happy to do that in that way. But it made me think. My question will be, because you talk also very much about interaction with the audience and you want to provoke and you want to trigger something in them and pose them a difficult question or in difficult situations. My question will be like, what do you do with that energy that you create in the audience? I am there, I'm watching, I'm being in this situation, and then what? I just go home and like drink a beer at home because I found the place so tough, so great, so whatever?
You will have to answer that.
I have to answer the first question because that is one of my favorite. I don't know what you call it. The opposite of a pet idea. Because I have heard this question so many times and I get very mad all the time. Now it's so many years ago. I'm trying to control it. But the point of this performance is basically, you have to think of a prostitute as a real person. And if you think of a real person, like a friend of yours, you wouldn't say, I don't want to go to the movie with you, because it's going to be fun, and then the movie will end. I think we all try to have moments of pleasure. And I also think that is, I don't know if it's a right, but when we made this performance with the prostitutes, it was obvious that it was enjoyable for them. And I don't want to take that away from them, from some ethical building saying what happens afterwards. I think they are very capable of making decisions. They do that all the time. Should I go in the red car with 3 guys, or should I wait and maybe not make some money? So they're capable of making decisions, and they know it's Christmas once a year, and then there's a whole year without Christmas. I don't think it's a problem.
Okay, then it's Turid.
Yes. Hello, thank you very much. I think this is very, very, very interesting. And of course, there are some ethical problems with buying prostitutes and outsourcing and everything. But I think what this is might not be a question. There might be a question in the end of it. But what I really like about it is that you're doing something with the audience. And there are some very disturbing issues out in society. You said something about they're already there. We're with them in this room of society. And we know they're there. We have some bad feelings about things going on in society, but it's none of our business, it's not our lives. We know about outsourcing, we know about poverty, fattigdom, poverty. And I think that what you are doing is making us more feeling the responsibility of the bad things in society more directly. We are when we are audience and we know that this prostitute has been bought and we're sitting here and we are part of it, that makes us more responsible, or you get the feeling of you being responsible. If you have outsourced, it's not the idea if they're really outsourced or not, these Bangladesh actors, but the idea that we outsource things because we want cheap products for our lives. But it's none of our business. It's nothing we can do. I think it's a kind of political theater that we need to make us feel much more responsible of all the bad issues going on in society. I think it's great, and I wonder if that is that is your what you call it, your mission, to make us feel more responsible, not being able to say that's not my problem, there's nothing I can do about it, it's there, it's the politicians to do, who has to do something about it, it's not me, because I'm just, is that?
A really short answer would be like, yeah, we want to remove it from a theoretical dilemma to a practical dilemma you will have to feel somehow and experience. Yeah.
I have just one, what you call it, oppfordring. There is a big, huge issue in Europe now, and especially in Norway. We are a very rich country. We haven't seen much poverty around us for a long time, and now all the gypsies are here, and it brings out some bad sides in people, I think. There's an issue for you to make it a big, happy event with all of us together. Yes, thank you.
Okay, now I have 3 more on my list and then we stop.
It's very fascinating to hear you tell about your work. It gives a lot of thoughts. But I was thinking about the Bangladeshi actors. Of course, the Bangladeshi actors are actors like us, and there is a vibrant theater life in Dhaka. And I've been on the festival there, and they play Ibsen, which is, for instance, very important for them as a reaction to the Muslim mullahs who try to disturb free speech and free thoughts and so on. So it's a fantastic concept to get the Bangladeshi actors to Europe. I was just thinking about the triumph of the whale, Leni Riefenstahl, and the theatrical way the masses were instructed, and how Leni Riefenstahl was making her films and manipulating the audience. So also that is really fantastic. And I just want to mention that I think it's no coincidence that Brecht in the 30s and so on developed his Verfremdung, because it's not only Leni Riefenstahl but also Hitler with his mass staging the speeches. Everything was so theatrical, and everything was organized to diminish the critical thinking of the audiences. And I think Brecht very conscious made that decision to work against that. And I see it back in your way of kind of manipulating your people. And I would have liked to see it very much. And the last thing I want to say was that what...
Is it an answer or is it a conclusion?
No, it's I don't know what it is. It's comment, I think.
Okay, comment.
Because, you know, when people like you talking, there are coming so many thoughts and ideas, and it's very inspiring. But it's not very logical or very thought through. With Pretty Woman, even as I got at the time seduced by the storytelling of the movie and the charm of Julia and Richard, I felt very pissed off afterwards, because I found it, when I thought later, I found it a glorification of the prostitution. And that was the real scandal of that movie, that they presented the prostitutes in that way. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. With Linda?
Yes. I try to say what I think. I find this really a bit naive, that you had a bit naive answer at Gisella's question. And my problem is not that you use a prostitute at the scene. My problem is that you pay her as a prostitute. Like, she's only a prostitute. Why don't you pay her as an ordinary actor?
Because then we would have paid her less.
Would you? No. But the other actors, did they got paid for less than 1 hour to play in your...
The actor's salary is much lower than a prostitute.
Okay,
But
but
anyway, I think you actually answered your question by raising the question.
how?
Because we want to maybe not answer questions, but like raise questions.
But that's my problem, because
If we were paying her the actor's salary, you wouldn't have that question. You wouldn't have that dilemma. Sometimes we have to put ourselves in the situation of being the bad guys, doing the wrong thing, you know?
Yes,
because
but
instead of pointing at other ones,
Yes.
we're actually being the part of Richard Gere or the part of all kinds of men somehow.
Oh, Schechner, it's my turn. Hey, yes, but that's my problem, because I understand what you say now, and I think that is great. But when Jeppe answer, it's almost like, but the prostitute can choose. They choose every day, go into a car, and I don't understand if you want to play the role of the bad guys, and that I think is great. But it's if you think everything is okay, and we have no ethical questions, and what you said, that is a really feministic project, I'm 40% agree. Okay, did I make my point?
I don't think everything is okay. But I think there's a huge difference in making decisions on a purely ethical level and forgetting the practical level. I think a performance like Pretty Woman, it's very important not to make the decision saying, is this okay or not, before you start trying it out. So the rehearsal process was making it okay, making it in a way that was on a practical level okay for us and for the women, but didn't rule out the ethical question of whether it's okay or not to buy another person. So, yeah, I like this discussion whether it is okay or not to make the performance, but I know I only like to be in this discussion because I was there, and I feel good about myself. Yes, we did it in a way where everybody was okay with it. So you can't use that to anything. It's just me saying it, but that was our job. I hope we succeeded in this performance, in doing it. We still have contact with the women. We played some extra performances that made some money, and we meet once in a while and have dinner with these women. It's that I think we did okay, but it really is not important. It's just important for me.
Okay, I think we are finished. I just want to say that it's interesting that, we are audiences and spectators of so many things in the world which we don't question or don't accept, but when you put it in a theater, we get, okay, I have to deal with this. Already here we have a discussion very fast, so that's interesting how much we accept when it's not on the theater. But it's on the theater, we don't. So I think this is also an interesting thing. Okay, I want to thank you all very much, and thank you to Jeppe.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we have a 10 minutes break, and then we'll be back here again.